Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel Liferia, and today's guest is Ben Stein. He's a sought-after career coach, speaker, and the author of Purpose Up. He helps professionals find work that truly matters. But his story is a powerful example of what we can be hiding behind a big title. Before he was a coach, Ben was a burned out VP hiding behind success. On paper, he had it all, the prestige, the paycheck, but inside, he was feeling lost, stuck, and in his own words, using alcohol and achievements to fill a void. It wasn't until he was laid off that he cracked open and began to rebuild his life from the inside out. He's here today to talk about the messy journey. So, Ben, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Ezekiel. It's my honor.
All right. So, let's dive in, Ben. Your story is very definitive of what we talk about on this podcast. You have been incredibly open about being a burned out VP who felt lost. So can you take us back to that breaking point? What did that failure of success feel like for you?
Yeah, thanks for the question. When I think back to, there's probably two pivotal moments in my career. So I'm 47 now. One was when I was in my late 20s and I was feeling lost in my career, and I was drinking and smoking pot, and I was just avoiding listening to, I mean, now I know what was going on. I was avoiding doing the healing work, and I was avoiding listening to my intuition to change things up and to live a more aligned life. I was just feeling in pain, confused, lost, etc. So there was this moment where I feel like I was failing at life because I was numbing myself. I was in bad relationship patterns with girlfriends, not being a good friend and not being good to myself. So in that way, I felt I was very much failing. And that's ultimately when I had my dark night of the soul and I first started to get help. And one of the lessons that I learned from that was it took me a long time to ask for help. And if I was to do it all over again, I would have probably gotten help a lot earlier and realized, wow, that support from other people and working with people who've walked the path is the shortcut to success. That was one of those. So if you're feeling alone, if you're going through darkness and feeling lost in terms of your career and emotions, all of that, I recommend getting help. And for me, that started with psychiatry. I didn't need drugs and therapy. Therapy was helpful for a while. Then it stopped being helpful. Then I found coaching. And as a client, that was transformational for me. I took a break from substances for over a year, shifted my relationship with them, and got tools to design my life. And that changed the trajectory of my life. Does all that make sense?
Yeah, that was quite an inspiring story. So you mentioned using alcohol and emotional numbing. So how did that show up for you day to day, and how did you begin to heal from that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, we all have challenges, and whether they're big or small traumas from growing up. And my way of dealing with that, starting from my teenage years, was alcohol and marijuana. And what it at first it was a coping mechanism that was helpful, and that's why I did it, because it helped me deal with my circumstances. But then it became a crutch and then an addiction. And that's when it started to really hold me back. And so in the coaching container I was in, I remember when my coach Kate said after this weekend intensive, it's like, you're ready to fly, but you've got a ball and chain, and that's alcohol and marijuana. So I got challenged to do, you know, 3 months without it. That 3 months turned into a year. And I was like, I'm a bachelor in New York City. That's going to be impossible. But I was able to change my relationship. So the question that you asked me was about, numbing myself with alcohol and
Yeah,
marijuana.
yeah,
And those were coping mechanisms that originally during my teenage years helped me deal with a challenging home environment. But ultimately, they became a crutch and an addiction in my later years and really started to hurt me rather than help. And so it was in that realization that I felt trapped, and I was drinking multiple nights a week. I was smoking pot 3 or 4 times a week and even needed it to go to bed. And um I even remember one time when I was trying to win back my college girlfriend, and my drug use was an issue when we were dating. And I remember she slept over, and I couldn't not smoke pot to go to sleep. And she was totally like disappointed in me, thought I had changed. And I, just kind of like broke down in front of her. And I was like, okay, this is a low point where I realized like I am not in control and I needed to get some help. And there's lots of different ways that you can get help, but ultimately coaching was the container and challenge and accountability that helped me start that transformation path. But there's lots of different ways like AA, other coaching programs. So the idea is to get support in a container there.
So you are the author of Purpose Up. So how did that whole experience, the burnout, the layoff, the healing directly leads to the Purpose Up philosophy and your rapid career accelerator framework?
Yeah, good question. So after I did my initial round of coaching, I started to become an apprentice with the company that I had worked with. And that was in my late
Mm.
20s. And after that, I was like, if I'm going to become a coach, I have to live out a dream. So I left my day job, left my coaching training, and I traveled the world for 8 months by myself. And I started with climbing Kilimanjaro, and I ended in Nepal at Everest Base Camp and had a great adventure. And I got over a lot of fears about what was possible for me, and that was amazing. I got back and I wasn't fully aligned with the coach company I was training with, and I went back into the advertising world. I was a I was a producer and at the director level, and then I transitioned into product management and tech. And in 2016, I started the Purpose Up podcast to interview people living purpose-led lives to inspire others to do the same. And I had this itch to pick up coaching again. So I did that under the Purpose Up banner. And I realized I had the most success helping people in career transitions. So this is what I advise my clients to do is if you have a job, start a side hustle so that you can put some money away and you can practice gaining those skills that you need while you're still gaining an income. And so that's what I did. And in 2018, I got that call into the CEO's office. I was VP of product at a.com. I was making good money, but I wasn't really lit up by the work I was doing. I wasn't aligned with it. It didn't light me up. And right after my paternity leave, the CEO says, come into my office. I get that last minute invite, stomach dropped. And I walk that long walk into his office and he let me go. Time goes into slow motion. And then I'm working at the Woolworth building and I leave with my belongings in my hand, all shook. And I got a call, and it was from a coach whose program I'd applied to. And he's like, Ben, you're accepted. Let's do this. And so I got this call when I was in the lobby of the building to join this coaching accelerator. And so that was a sign to go for it. And so I decided, am I going to live by example for my son and go for a dream, or am I going to play it safe and get another safe tech job? And I was terrified, but I was like, if I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. So I took the plunge into coaching and started my own business at that time. And over the years, I've coached 300 plus professionals one-on-one, reached many thousands of others with my podcast. And what lights me up about the work I do is to help people remove the blocks that are in their way, to help them get that clarity, step into their value, and then relay that value so that they can gain those roles that they're excited about. And so the book matches my journey of healing, getting rid of that stuff that was no longer serving me, to
Mm.
getting that clarity, that vision, which is a process. It's not just, the clouds parting. There's a process to that. And then 3, once you have that vision, how do you bridge that gap and make it a reality? So that's roughly what the book is about, is to give people this kind of practical guide to finding themselves, finding what they're passionate about, and then the practical steps to get it.
All right. That was a really great response. So for the person listening who is in that exact spot you were right now, so they are successful on paper, but inside they feel stuck, lost, or maybe they are feeling too late to pivot. So, what is the very first step you recommend them to take?
So it's a good question. When I start with my clients, and this process is actually outlined in the book, there's two exercises that I have them do concurrently. The first one is around vision, and a lot of people are like, "Well, I don't know what my vision is." So start with the prompt, "Wouldn't it be cool if dot dot dot?" And you just start writing down some bullet points about what would an ideal life look like for you. And those bullet points can be a no pressure way to start. As you're doing that, there's internal voices that come up like, who am I to do that? It's too late. You don't have the skills. And I call those ego voices. They're there to protect you and to keep you where you're at, because where you're at is kind of safe to part of your brain.
Yeah.
And so you want to be able to jot down those voices and then write down the counter to those voices. So, for example, I used to have a voice like, then you're not a great salesperson. So you're not going to be able to run a coaching program. And what I realized is A, I needed to get the skills, and B, I needed to have a growth mindset that anything I put my mind to, I can do. And so, I used to really suck at sales. Now I am meh at it, and I'm going to continue to get better at it, but I'm good enough to sustain a business and grow a business. So it's about flexing the vision muscles in the vision gym. It's about getting really clear on what those voices are that are holding you back and rewriting that script so you can counteract that. And then taking those steps and being okay with sucking at first so that you can get better at it and just know that it's too late. I'm not old enough. I don't have enough education. Those are all excuses and ego voices holding you back. So you don't let them drive the bus. Imagine that they're toddlers. You put them in a seat, you give them a banana and ask like, well, what's the wisdom here? Gather that wisdom and then let your higher self drive the bus, your belief in yourself and your bigger mission that you want to accomplish.
Wow, those were very, very powerful tips and steps you just outlined. So, Ben, after this entire journey of finding purpose after prestige, what does being successful truly mean to you now?
So I like the quote from Gandhi that happiness is when what you say, you feel, and you do are all in alignment.
Hmm.
And what I realized is that for too long, I was out of alignment and I was trying to numb myself to avoid dealing with it. But it's once I was able to feel my feelings and deal with my stuff and then really ask myself the question, what does alignment look like? And all of that's really scary. And I avoided things that were scary. So it's this ability to look at fear as a signal of something to walk towards instead of walk away from. And the more success that you'll have is feeling that fear and taking action. But most of the time, us as humans get stuck in analysis paralysis and procrastination, and we don't activate as quickly as we can. So that's one of the lessons that I've learned along my way, and I continue to learn, is that feel the fear, do it anyway, and the more you do that, the more success you'll have, as long as you're in that path of alignment of what you say, think, and do.
All right. This has been a really powerful and honest conversation. So, for our listeners who want to connect with you, learn more about Purpose Up, or follow you on your journey on coaching and all of those. So, where is the best place for them to go?
Yes, thank you for the question. And thank you for holding the space. It's great. On Instagram, Coach Ben Stein. The last name is Stein. So that's Coach Ben Stein on Instagram. My website is purposeup.com. And for anybody who is job seeking right now and is looking for some tools to help them in that process, I help my clients land their ideal next role. If you go to purposeup.com/gift, there's some amazing resources that I'm giving away for free to the listeners of that podcast. So you can go to that website if you want to grab some resources.
Right. It was a great time talking to you, Ben, and I am really excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate the work that you're doing in the world and the inspiration and the leadership that you're sharing with folks. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you very much.